Welcome to the Steve Davis Show. Special guest today was Robert Portnoy, voice of the Lobos. And Robert, hey, this is so great. I'm so excited to be able to have you in the studio and just reminiscing about things we've done in the past.
Well, it feels like this has become an annual tradition that you bring me in, at this time of year, and it's fun being with you, and there are a lot of great memories.
Great memories, but I tell you what, there's excitement. I mean, and part of that is with you and what you and Hunter and more have done with the broadcast and on the radio. But I tell you, there's just seems to be energy at the University of New Mexico about the sports.
No, there's no doubt about it. What we do is just a reaction to what's happening on the field and on the court. And you're right, it was kind of a renaissance year for Lobo men's basketball. There's no doubt about it. To win 14 games in a row at the start of the season and see the pit filled again, it was amazing. And I think it's just the start, Steve.
Well, I know you and I, we've met, for dinner and actually for my birthday, on my lunch for my birthday. I appreciate that so much. You made my whole day for thinking of me. But things have changed, a new culture still, and we're not going to go into it, but the NIL is making a big difference. And I tell you what, it seems like Pitino's got a really good grasp on this, and it's. I was just with Adrian Ortega that day, and they're looking at the new recruit, everybody that's getting in the portal, and they're signing. That was a concern when I was talking with you, is, hey, can we replace these people? And actually, you just gave me that little smile that you have and said, hey, we're in good hands. Things are going to be good.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think that the starting five, it's going to be better. There's no doubt. And you're right about the NIL, and we can get into that as much as you want, because it's crucial to what's happening on South Campus. If you don't have a good, productive, engaged NIL collective in your community, you're not going to compete. And thanks to Kurt Roth and 505 SVF, the Lobos not only are competing in the new transfer portal NIL world, the Lobos are thriving.
Well, that's through my sources of people that I know and everything, it's good to know that we're not I guess the word I'm trying to use is coming here and then moving on. This is a destination place now.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? A lot of people think about the transfer portal and they think of it being sort of like free agency. Well, it is definitely to an extent. But here's an interesting fact about it. If you can get an undergraduate who's in his first or second year to transfer, they only get the one-time transfer for free until you're again a graduate. Then you can transfer again without having to sit out the year. So if you can get a guy who's finished his freshman or his sophomore year, and you can get him to transfer in, he's pretty well locked in for a couple of years, unless he turns pro. Because that one-time transfer where you can transfer without sitting out, it's just once as an undergraduate. And obviously the Lobos have taken full advantage of it. Look at this. They're going to get 3 seasons out of Jalen House and Jamal Mashburn Jr.
Well, and I tell you, and they kept them. I mean, they had opportunities to leave, and that's where I think Pitino's really good. He's kept those, and he can build around. And we saw what he did last year with bringing 2 players in. Now he's got multiple players coming in, and I guess there's still more out there that we don't know about yet that haven't signed.
Yeah, this class that they brought in, and obviously Morris Udeze and Josiah Alec were 2 big pieces in the front court that the Lobos needed to fill. I think the Lobos have actually gotten better at those 2 positions with the new players that they brought in. Nelly Jr. Joseph, the big guy from Iona, who played for Rick Pitino, is going to be fantastic. The Lobos saw him score 21 in the pit when Iona came to play here, and Mustafa Emsil is the real deal. He can actually shoot the three, a pick and pop four, a true pick and pop four. We know that Alec wasn't very good from distance.
Well, and actually, you think about that, there was opportunity. He was scouted that way too. I mean, he was like almost sometimes they just leave him wide open, and he was like, the old saying is, if you have to think, then you're dangerous because you're not reacting.
Well, there's also the old adage of there's a reason you're open. So, it's funny. You think back to the, before the season even started in the Cherry Silver scrimmage, and Josiah Alec was added to the roster for the three-point contest. He ends up winning that, and it looked like this is the ideal guy that can pick and roll and pick and pop. Well, it turns out that the jump shot isn't quite developed yet, and we wish Josiah all the best, of course, but I think the Lobos are going to really love Amsil at that spot, and Joseph is a pure five who might actually have maybe even a little bit more in terms of a face the basket kind of mid-range type of game that Udeze did not have. I don't know if he's going to match the physicality of Udeze, but we'll see. Fans are going to love him.
Well, and I think the biggest thing that the Lobos lacked was depth. Okay, this year they got depth. I mean, they got depth at the point guards. I mean, they got Dent coming back, and you got Mashburn and House that everybody knows who they are, but they have the ability to rest players, and then so right there, that's an unbelievable guard. That could be the best three guard tandem in the United States.
I don't think there's any question with House and Mash and Dent coming back at those positions. Phenomenal. Maybe the unsung piece of this class is the new three. Jamal Baker, whom the Lobos have gotten in as a transfer from Fresno State, is a player who was a four-star recruit who started his career at Kentucky. He actually also played at the University of Arizona before going to Fresno State. The Lobos are his fourth school. He is a legit scorer and shooter who averaged over 12 points per game for Fresno State. He's going to play the small forward position at 6'5". He can defend, he can shoot, he can drive it. He's a complete player, and he's very experienced.
Well, I tell you, you're getting me goosebumps just thinking about what, I mean, I guess the word is expectations for next year are very high.
And that's okay. Like, at this point now in year 3 under Coach Pitino, we've seen it building, right? From the first season where you saw a transition of the roster, a total overhaul of the roster, 9 new players, and sort of glimpses of just how good the backcourt could be. But obviously the team was limited, to then changes up front through the transfer portal with the help of NIL, obviously. And now the Lobos have a 20-win season. The Lobos are in the conversation as an at-large for the NCAA tournament. You think about the 3 games the Lobos lost in the final seconds, right? 2 of them on buzzer beaters, 1 of them in overtime where maybe a call didn't go their way or they win that game. If just a couple of those games tip their way, maybe the Lobos aren't at large in the NCAA. So, yes, you wish that it could have been even better after you win 14 in a row to start the year. But I think that the momentum is obvious, and this year's team could be even better.
Tell you what, we're going to go to Dream Style Top 10 Plays of the Week. Come back and talk more about you and the Lobo sports.
Pitch. There's a line drive right at the shortstop for out number 3.
Apodaca ripped to left field. That will bounce in, so it's going to be extra bases as they'll have to chase that one at the wall in the warning track. Flipped up, there's no play at home. So it's an RBI double for Andrew Apodaca. Runner at third. High leverage spot can Chavez keep The tie. No, that's going to be cracked into left field. It's a base hit as Love puts the Sandia Matadors ahead for the first time today.
The 0-2. It's upstairs, goes to the backstop, and the run will not score. Gun down at home.
Chavez rocks and fires. Ahmed, that's going to be an RBI for Ahmed as that one right through the gap in right center. Petrie will scoop that one, and it's looking like a triple as Ahmed plugs into third base, and what a way to score that run for the Matadors.
Coach Romero barking out his orders there to his players. He's been around the game for a long time. Nice shot to center field. That'll bring runners in. Just like that, La Cueva will bring 3 runners in to go up 3-0. Runner advances to third. Shot to center. That looks good. That's gone. Man, outstanding center shot there. As La Cueva will score. Antonio Lucero, second baseman, quite the hitter. Shot to third, and good catch. And she gets the out. Outstanding play by Trinity Bazan. Nice bright spot.
Costly errors allowed Cleveland to get 1 run back. That one sent on the ground to the left side. Throw to first in time. Throw home. Got her. Whoa, what a play.
Next door or something. Not sure, but they came out here, and Ellison cracks an RBI out to left field. That's where you got to do it. 1 run, 2 run, and this game could very well be over. It's a play at the plate. It's sliding, and that will do it. The Rams walk off the La Cueva Bears. It's a 3-run batted in shot by Dean Ellison.
Stucco is the way to go. The Southwest tradition, beautiful and durable. The perfect combination. Your favorite color, your favorite texture. You're gonna love it when they put it all together. Through any weather, nothing looks better. From the smooth to the rough, they really know their stuff. Nobody does stucco like Dream Style Stucco.
Hey, welcome back to the Steve Davis Show. We've got Robert Portnoy, voice of the Lobos, and Robert's always fun coming in and talking. But you got me on Lobo basketball, and I tell you, this is amazing what Coach Pitino, Ed Nunez, a good hire by him, and just the excitement, and then it even has picked you and Hunter Green up. I mean, y'all's broadcasts are just, there's so much energy going into those games.
It's fun, and I love what you said just a short while ago when we were talking off air, the fact that it's just being talked about. Like, it's again the hot topic of conversation, and you're with your friends or with your coworkers, and the announcement of a new signee comes, across the wire, and it's all you guys want to talk about, and everybody's, who is it? Where did he come from? And it's just that the momentum. It's pretty amazing. And you're right, Coach Pitino and his staff are doing an incredible job.
And then also just the fan base is just, it's exciting to go. I mean, it's almost like if you don't go to the game, you're not involved with the community.
Well, I'll give you an example of that. You can go back 10 years, right? My first season, I was really fortunate to sort of come in when it was right at its peak, right? And it was the 27-win season in Coach Neal's first year. The Lobos completed a three-peat, winning 3 consecutive Mountain West Tournament championships, and the pit was sold out every night. I mean, it was just packed the entire time. Well, obviously, it hasn't been like that for almost a decade. And this past year, all my daughter and her friends wanted to do was go to the games. It was exciting again. They couldn't get enough of it, and they hadn't been interested. And it's completely re-energized. It's just a small example of what's happening throughout the community, throughout the state.
Well, I tell you, you know, with my schedule, it's hard. I get to go, you know, I just cherry pick my games, you know, San Diego State, you know, and also Nevada. I mean, I had New Mexico State, but it didn't happen this year. But I'm just saying those are, you know, I try to go to the 4 or 5 of the top games. But, you know, it's the thing about it is if you don't go 2 hours early, you might miss that first tip-off.
Well, and that's because the place is packed again. And, you know, to have a handful of crowds, over 15,000, to sell the place out, it had been a long time since that had happened. I know you know that. You've been around. You obviously were in it as a player, and you've seen how good it can be and has been over the generations, through the decades, right? Hadn't been like this in a while. To see it back like that, really exciting.
You know, back in the day, Robert, is that, you know, the student section was on the west side, okay, and basically it was first come, first serve, and so, you know, at that time we'd come to the game at 5 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game. We had to be getting ready at 5 o'clock, and there'd be people outside. The student section would be outside ready for the doors to open. And so when we did our pregame or went down and shot around and everything like that, you were already, the pit was already halfway full. And you talk about, that was one of the things that's been just, you know, I guess if I'm an alumni that, you know, it was people would, in the last 5 or 6 years, they wait till the last, you know, 2 or 3 minutes to get in and watch the game. And it's great to see that the pit's full before, you know, an hour before the game.
Well, you mentioned the old student section, and I want to give a shout out to Nolan Murphy. He's the one who resurrected the student section this year in the pit. Now, credit as well to assistant AD Ryan Berriman. He had a vision. He found a guy in Nolan Murphy, a Lobo student, to run it. And now that student section is back. And the way that they came out this year, the organization, the commitment, game in and game out, really impressive. The atmosphere is back too. That's what's awesome.
Well, white night, white T-shirt, that was one of the games we went to. Was, you know, I went to UNLV game, and there was an alumni game, and they set us up, you know, nice 50 on the west side above the seats down, you know, deal. So I went there. It was just amazing, the fanfare and just goosebumps coming up, you know, up deal just with the energy. And the game hadn't even started. I mean, it was amazing. It was like 25 minutes when we went and sat down.
Well, you mentioned the whiteout. There was the cherry out. These types of games and the atmosphere in those games. Coach Pitino put it really well, I thought. There is a recency bias, right? Especially with this generation. What happened even 3 years ago and 5 years ago is kind of out of sight and out of mind. And Coach Pitino and his staff and the marketing people at the University of New Mexico needed new material to be able to show new recruits that it's happening right now. Not that this is something that has happened in the past at the University of New Mexico. This is what it is right now, today. This is what we saw in the pit this season. And if you come, you can be a part of that. That's really important because it is back.
I tell you, you know, it is. I mean, when you have people, I mean, this is off season. I mean, basketball's been over since March, okay, and people right now are excited for next year to start, and that's the way it was when I played. I mean, it was like as soon as the season was over, we rebuild or reload would be the word that Norm Ellenberger was said. It would not. We're just reloading. We're gonna make this happen year and year, and that's the attitude that Pitino has, and it's contagious. Okay, not as he just speaking it, he's getting it done. He's bringing in, I love his interviews with you and Hunter at the end of the game because he's so practical. I mean, you could ask him any question and he never changes his demeanor, and he'll say, that's a good question. Let me decipher it a little bit before I answer the question. But he's very. I mean, you and him have a great chemistry, and it shows. I mean, it just really shows.
We're really lucky, Hunter and I, to be able to work with a coach. He's just a normal guy. That's the most amazing thing about him. He's just like that off the court, away from the mic. He's very approachable. Yes, he can be sarcastically funny, but he has a truly amazing wit. It's not just sarcasm. He's got a sense of humor. Just a great guy to be around, wonderful to work with. And obviously, the atmosphere around the program since he arrived has been completely different. You can see how much his staff enjoys working with him, how much the players enjoy working with him. It's a really impressive unit that he's created over there, in the Davalos Center. And I can't wait to see where it goes. I'm really excited for this year.
Tell you what, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and I got a comment on Coach Pitino to start the next segment.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walking to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Networks.
Sometimes it's the small things that make life easier, like never worrying about being declined at an ATM when only cash will do. With your covered from U.S. Eagle, we'll cover you, even if the money's not there. That's a good feeling. And we do it with no extra fees or penalties. It's called trust, and we think that's important, especially if we're asking you to trust us. At U.S. Eagle, that's just part of what it means when we say people mean more.
International Protective Services is a proud supporter of ProView Sports and New Mexico Youth Athletics. IPS provides residential and commercial security services in the Albuquerque metro area. For more info, please call 505-897-2420 or visit internationalprotectiveservice.com.
Hey, welcome back. Steve Davis Show. Got Robert Portnoy, head of voice of the Lobos, and Robert. That last time I wanted one story about Coach Pitino, and that's just a personal experience by me. Is that you have the alumni; they do a great job with the alumni. And on Friday night, the games on Saturday night was a UNLV game, but on Friday night we had a get together of all the Lobos. And Coach Pitino came and actually sat down. We had Bob Toppert, Pat King, and Dan Davis, and some guys that I played with. And this is a game. This is a big. You go back at that time. They're playing UNLV, and they just got beat. The deal, and it's
the winning streak had just come to an end.
Yeah, sold out crowd, and you wouldn't. I wouldn't have been there. I mean, big. He's there, and he's just like you and I right now, and just sit down and just sit there and talk, just like you said, just like he wasn't the head coach. He was just asking our opinion about the players and asking us, how he can make the program better. But basically, where I'm going with this is that he he embraces the tradition that made the pit over the years.
He clearly has, and he understands too that you have to keep adding to that tradition. That the history is great, but you need new material, and he's delivering, right? I mean, you look back to the first year, and you could see the way the team played, and you're like, oh, I like this. The tempo, right? The way that the guards had freedom, right, to do their thing. And you saw how good Mashburn and House could be. But the Lobos were a work in progress. And then fast forward, year 2, now you have a more complete roster. You add a front court presence to the pace and the tempo with which they play. And not only is it a successful team, it's an exciting team to watch. And I think it's really important that the brand of basketball that the Lobos play, the type of defense, for example, that Jalen House plays, the pit loves that, right? The Lobo fans love that. They eat that up. And the way that the Lobos play basketball under Coach Pitino, it just feeds this crowd.
You're exactly right. And I tell you, there's also other excitement too. There's football, and let's kind of, talk about football right now. What Danny Gonzalez is doing right now.
It's a huge transition year, and I think that the fans are going to be really excited about where the offense is in Coach Gonzalez's 4th year. To have a brand new offensive coordinator in Bryant Vincent, who comes from UAB, he brings his starting quarterback with him, Dylan Hopkins. The Lobos have a transfer at running back, Andrew Henry, to go with returners Sherrod White and Christian Washington. The receiving core is completely overhauled. Now, everybody knows Luke Weissong. He's the returning burner, the local product from Cleveland High School. Well, there are a bunch of new faces in the receiving core. Jeremiah Hickson, Caleb Medford, DJ Washington. These are athletes on the edge that will transform the way the Lobo offense looks, the way it operates. And you'll also notice a huge difference in the type of run game that this offense utilizes here in 2023. It's a zone blocking scheme up front. Coach Gonzalez and his staff have already improved the offensive line. He's looking to add 3 or 4 more through the transfer portal here to improve the depth up front. There is no way the Lobo offense this year will look like it has the last couple of seasons. I promise you that this is going to be a more explosive team.
Well, I tell you, much needed. I mean, I'm telling you, Danny Gonzalez, he just works as, he's a New Mexico guy, and I appreciate that. But I tell you what, his heart and soul's into making this a winning program.
There's no doubt. And I'll tell you, another program that's on the rise is the Lobo baseball program. Todd Brown, his 2nd season, New Mexico has the number 3 batting average as a team in the entire country. It's a really exciting lineup to watch. Still lacking the pitching depth to compete at the very top of the Mountain West Conference, but this year the Lobos are in contention to make the postseason. Right now they sit 5th. You need to be in the top 4 to make the Mountain West tournament at the end of May. They'll have to make a run here at the end of the season, but it's not out of the question. Again, the trajectory for the Lobo baseball program, it is very much on the rise.
I tell you, we're coming to an end. Lobo's playing right now. There's still some time to go watch those Lobo baseball players.
Big weekend series. Fresno State is one of the teams that the Lobos are trying to catch. Fresno State is in this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 6 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and noon. We hope to see the fans at Santa Ana Star Field.
I tell you what, Robert, thanks for coming on my show, and also it's always a pleasure to see what you're doing in the Lobo world.
Oh, it's great being with you, Steve. Thanks.